Sanjay, looking at your career, you have spent over 20 years in the IoT, building IoT platforms. And now we live in the world of AI. How does the industry evolve from connected devices to intelligent system? What is the role of AI coming into the IoT systems that we see all around us?
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, working at Cisco Greenwave, and the first wave, Anshuman, of when you're talking about connecting all the sensors was, hey, can you see it in the app? Can we turn on and off the light from the app? Or can we? It's all about checking something, and they were getting all excited about it. Oh, I can see my dog from somewhere. Oh, I can turn off my light remotely. I can open and close my garage door. That was the first wave.
Okay, welcome to the CXO Show. Most buildings today are connected. Very few are actually intelligent. We have spent years making buildings smarter with connected locks, cameras, sensors, and automation system. Yet one of the most critical part of any property, the water infrastructure, remains largely invisible until something goes wrong. Sanjay Poojary believes the next generation of intelligent building won't just be connected, they will understand how their utilities behave, predict problems before they happen, and actively protect themselves. After more than 2 decades of building IoT platforms for Fortune 500 companies, Sanjay founded Saya Life to transform water from a passive utility into an actionable building intelligence. Today we are talking about PropTech, IoT, AI, infrastructure innovation, startup building, and why utilities may become one of the most valuable data layers in the real estate. Welcome to the show, Sanjay.
Thank you, Anshuman. It's my privilege.
Okay, the hidden problem that nobody talks about, and all of us, be it we are renting something in a commercial property, or we own our own home, or we have a rental property, we see what happens if water leaks. Everything stands still, and you really don't know how much it is going to cost you, even though you have full insurance on your property. Take us through it. How big is this problem that a property owner and managers are actually facing, be it a commercial property or be it a residential property?
Thanks, Anshuman, for inviting me to this podcast. And if you think about water, right? So you have the utility companies who are the supplier of water. It's pretty much you open the tap and you see water coming. You take it for granted. But the utility companies treat water like a product. So at the utility meter that's outside your home or outside the building, that's the demarc point where now they want to charge for water and they treat it like a product. And before that point, there's all kinds of visibility of what's happening with the water when it leaves the facility. It has miles and miles of piping. There's all kinds of AI and machine learning to figure out. There's acoustic analytics. There's all kinds of stuff going on to figure out where the problem is, where the leak is, because it's a product. That's loss of revenue for the utility companies. Right? So the minute it passes the utility meter and enters the building, now the building is a black box. They have no visibility of what's happening with water. Yet, if you look at a building, there are multiple stakeholders whose economy depends on water. Right? So if you have insurance companies, if there is a leak, they have to pay out a claim. Property owners, they pay the utility bill every month. But now they are left with all that cost. How do they recover the shared cost from the individual homeowners? Because they are using the water. So they need that visibility. If there is a leak in one of the units, they cannot rent that unit out. They will have problems. There's disruption of communication between the property owner and the tenant if they disagree on a bill. So there's so many problems you see when you don't have visibility. So what you cannot see, what you cannot see and measure, you cannot act on. So that's the key in these multifamily buildings where it's a huge problem. Multiply that with millions and millions of properties everywhere around the world. You're talking about a massive, massive problem.
Wow. So, Sanjay, why has been the water infrastructure neglected so much? Where was the gap? Certainly there is a gap, and we, all of us, have faced that problem once or twice in our lifespan right now. Why this infrastructure has been so neglected?
Now, if you look at smart buildings, right? When you talk about smart buildings, you think about thermostats, you think about smart locks, access control, camera, security. All of these things are IoT devices that are easily plugged into the building, right? Now, when you talk about anything that goes into a plumbing system, if you're architecturally not designed to do certain things, it's hard to change the status quo. Now, think about how sub-metering is done over the last 100 years, right? So you have the utility water meter. The utility
Right.
company said, look, if you want to recover the shared costs from the individual tenants, there is a specification to put a sub-meter. And sub-meter is also a simple device that reads your consumption and sends a report every month so that the billing company can send you a bill, and then you can collect that. Now, compare that. Let's take an analogy, right? You have a flip phone and you have an iPhone. The old flip phone, the only function is to make a phone call. That was it. You can't do anything else with it, right? Now with the iPhone, you can tell how long, what kind of conversation, you're recording a video, you can do other things. So it gives you a lot of data points of a lot of other things. That's the difference between old infrastructure design and the reason for it versus the new requirements today. Now, in order to do that, property owners have to reinvest in leak detection technology, things that are smarter, that can have sensing for pressure, temperature, flow rate, have a platform that does analysis for how people are using water. And that's difficult to do for a property owner unless there are some incentives and there are companies that have technology that makes it easier for them to do it, right?
Great. So, what made you believe that this is a large enough problem? Obviously, we all know there is a problem and it is a large enough because there are so many buildings and each building has a water connection or multiple water connections in there. But, the sale is not that easy, trying to penetrate that because government authorities are involved, building codes are involved, cities are involved. What made you really think that this is a large enough problem to create a complete startup around it?
Right. I think if you look around us today, every industry is trying to transform themselves by IoT, cloud infrastructure, data, be it telecom, energy, smart homes. You have all of these buzzwords everywhere. But when it comes to water, I mean, if you're sitting in a building, there's water behind the wall, under your over your head. There are pipes everywhere. There's
Right.
hundreds and millions of gallons of water flowing everywhere, but you have no visibility. You're blind. If you're sitting in this room where you're sitting now and your toilet is leaking, you don't know. But if there is an issue with anything else, if there's a security camera, you get a notification on your phone, you're ready to act, right? So the turning point for us as a company was to understand that water is not just a utility expense. Water is connected to risk. Water is connected to maintenance. Water is connected to billing, sustainability, ESG, asset value. Everything is tied to water. And if we can help the industry by collecting real-time information and providing outcome to help them with their decision, that would be a game changer. You're not talking about IoT. It started with IoT to know what devices you have. Then you have something called software as a service. We want to talk about outcome as a service. It's when something happens or something critical happens, what is the outcome that you want to see? Are you able to do that? That's what defined the entire market
Right.
size and the possibilities in this space.
Sure, sure. So, Sanjay, you talk about building the utility operating system, and you describe Saya Life as the utility OS for intelligent building. What does that actually mean? Is it real-time intelligence, unified platform, automated action? What happens there? Give us a brief about your company or your startup, Saya Life, what it is doing, and how it is going to change the world.
So Anshuman, if you think about how utilities are managed in the building today, right? You have water, gas, heat, thermal, all these things, they're all managed separately. And somehow they're kind of tied to each other in a way, right? If you have a water being used in a building, say in a washing machine or a dishwasher, those are also managed through electricity and how much power is being used for these devices. If you have hot water running in your building, you're using hot water for shower, that ties to energy cost. So everything is connected in one way or the other in the building, and all of them are managed in their own little silo. So when we started the company, we wanted to focus on water because that is the biggest pain point, right? Leaks, rising cost. Utility companies want to increase the cost of water, but they are giving you low flush, rebates for low flush toilets, shower heads, all of these things, only so that you reduce your overall water footprint while they can increase the cost of water, so you don't see the impact, right? So there is a huge lack of visibility. So having a single platform that can connect all the sensors, the meters, the valves, the gateways, cloud and analytics, and then set up based on how the sensors are behaving, based on how the different homeowners. You could have senior living, you can have student housing, you could have different types of people living in different buildings. And all of those things, what's called federated learning, contributes to how the system as a whole would react. Just because you have a low flush toilet or a efficient toilet in your home doesn't mean that you're efficient. They might just be flushing it 10 times a day, right? So those things nobody knows. So providing that visibility becomes critical. So if you have a platform that can tell you what is happening now instead of waiting for the utility bill, that is where the value is, right? And you can pretty much create all kinds of analytics for buildings with ESG metrics, with LEED and all of these things in real time. Now think about insurance companies. The insurance companies, the underwriters, they price policies based on inspection, which is a snapshot in time. If they can see this in real time,
Right.
you can pretty much automate insurance. Underwriting can be automated. They can say, "Oh, this is what your score is. Insure risk," something like that. That's where the utility platform or the utility OS comes from.
So, Sanjay, the first phase for your startup, who are the ICP? Who is the customer? It is large property owners, government buildings, or you are selling into the single family homes also?
So we specifically focused on commercial multifamily as a company because the problem is everywhere. But as a startup, you have to focus on one area because it takes up all your time and energy trying to build a business model and trying to define that customer and fix their problems, right? So we focused on multifamily. It took us a while because when you talk about commercial, it requires all the certifications and weights and measures, drinking water certification, FCC, everything. There's so many things going on there. But we pretty much went through all of those things, and our target was to find a customer that's actually looking for this, right? So if you talk about sub-metering, everybody wants a water sub-meter in a building if they have tenants because they have to bill their tenants for water use.
Yeah.
Now, if I can tie in the insurance piece to this, saying that, look, you have a sub-meter, but 5 years down the line in this building, when you have a leak, you're going to pay out, you'll have to, fix the problem, you're going to have mold, there's going to be a claim. What if I give you a system at the same cost as an existing sub-meter, which also does leak detection? and you don't have to go to multiple vendors. Today, the whole marketplace is fragmented. You go to, if you're a property owner, you will buy the water sub-meter from one company. You'll go to another company to buy the data collector that pulls information, like the gateway to pull information from these sensors, and then yet another company to collect that data and do billing. And nobody is doing analytics for the information because some of the meters only send data once a day or once in a month or whatever, right?
Right.
So what I'm telling our property owners, builders, GCs that, hey, there are multiple stakeholders who are involved in this. We'll give you a system that can help you and we will manage it. We will warranty it for the lifetime of the solution. Our goal is to make sure we give you the right kind of information so you can collect the shared cost, right kind of information so we can prevent risk, and the right kind of information so that you can help with your ESG metrics, right?
Mhm. Okay, great. So, you said, multifamily houses. So, what are the biggest benefit that the property owner or the management of those property companies will get? It is the cost recovery, asset protection, risk reduction, or additional stuff that they will get once you have your product implemented in their system.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of those points, but I can elaborate on each one of them, right?
Yeah.
The first and the foremost benefit is visibility, right? They know what's happening in their building for once, right? They don't get a call at 2 a.m. in the morning saying, hey, my roof is caved in. There was a leak somewhere and the whole ceiling is fallen down. That's not going to happen, right? They will know if there is a leak and right away they can send somebody to resolve it even before the tenant is calling them, right? So loss prevention is a huge benefit for them, right? If you can identify a leak early enough, it's huge savings in their net operating income, and also reduces their maintenance cost. The third big benefit is revenue recovery. They pay a huge amount to utility companies for utilities, for water, gas, heat, electric. If they have a system that is built in that can collect that money back from their tenants and an easy way for the tenants to pay them, then that's recovery, right? You're collecting shared cost in a fair and a transparent way. It's an open ledger. Tenants have an app too. So they can see where they're using their water. Mid-month, if they're not efficient, they get a notification, hey, look, you're using too much water. Your bill's going to be high. This is the area where you're using water. Take care of that. So now they know what's happening. It's not like at the end of the month they get a huge bill and they're like, what the hell? Why is my bill so high, right? The fourth one, you touched on it, is operational efficiency, right? Now, everything is working like a well-oiled machine. They get a notification, their maintenance guys can say, oh, on the 7th floor in this unit, there was a trigger for this thing. Let's go check it out, right? And they check it out, they clean up the issue, they're ahead of the game, right? And all of these things results in increasing value for their assets and reducing their insurance risk.
Right.
Almost water is the biggest risk in a building. It is one of the biggest one. And when property owners can prove that they have monitoring, they have alerts, they have shutoffs, and they have reporting happening in the building, they automatically qualify for insurance discounts. Insurance companies are now mandating these things. We are partnered with several insurance companies
Right.
who are sending us properties to say, hey, this property had a major claim. We are not going to renew their insurance unless they have something with a shut-off system. So we have to go in and help them, right? So that's how it's working.
Wow. So it is really a game changer. So Sanjay, looking at your career, you have spent over 20 years in the IoT, building IoT platforms. And now we live in the world of AI. How does the industry evolve from connected devices to intelligent system? What is the role of AI coming into the IoT systems that we see all around us?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, working at Cisco, Greenwave. And the first wave, Anshuman, of, when you're talking about connecting all the sensors was, hey, can you see it in the app? Can we turn on and off the light from the app? Or can we, it's all about checking something, and they were getting all excited about it. Oh, I can see my dog from somewhere. Oh, I can turn off my light remotely. I can open and close my garage door. That was the first wave, right?
Right.
The second way was, okay, can we create a dashboard and have information on what time of the day, what happened, how long was the lights running? Those are the types of, and then some alerts and some historical data, all of that stuff. That was the second wave, right? Now, when you're talking about the third wave, it's all about intelligence, right? It's all about intelligence. It's not about how many devices are connected. It's, can the system learn from what has happened in the past to help you define outcomes for the future, right?
Yeah.
And help you take the right action. So almost helping you learn to say, hey, based on some of the things that you saw in the past, for the efficiency of your, the most efficient way to run this particular fixture, or the toilet was running outside of its flow rate requirement. It's supposed to be running at this flow rate. It was running at this. The flush rate was, instead of 2.2, it was whatever it is, whatever it can be, right? It gives you some kind of information to help you now make sure your building is running at peak efficiency. If you talk about connected devices, it's going to tell you when something happens. Hey, somebody came to your door. Oh, there was somebody at the door, whatever, right? But when you're talking about intelligent system, it understands patterns. It predicts what the risks are based on what it understood. And it helps you prevent a major catastrophic event before it happens.
Okay.
That is where I think buildings are going. They will not just be connected, they will be self-aware. A self-aware building is what is going to be the future. Self-aware and self-optimized.
So predictive insight, self-aware system, integrated infrastructure, which will give you a more cohesive preventive operations for a large commercial building.
Correct.
This is where this is what you can say that when AI penetrates into the building infrastructure, this is how the world is going to look. So the learning is for startup founders, if you want to build something in this area, then this is what you have to be cognizant about. Build some self-aware system, integrated infrastructure, and really something that can help them or the property owners in the preventive operations.
Yeah, I mean, think about AI, right? Today, when it's solely software driven, any SaaS is almost going away very quickly, and anything that you can build today with software can be replaced pretty quickly with AI, right? But when you're talking about infrastructure, when you're talking about things that you're collecting out of using a piece of hardware and building intelligence based on that, that's hard to replace. You need that information to create that model to predict what's happening, right? So those things are, so that's tangible information, which is hard to replace, in my opinion.
So startup building and entrepreneurship, Sanjay, you have worked for companies like Cisco, Greenwave, before you jumped into the entrepreneurial ecosystem and became a founder. What lessons have you learned from large corporation, and those lessons that you have incorporated into the building style life? What are those? Scale thinking, product discipline, customer focus, revenue focus. What are those?
I think when you're talking about, so the major lesson is that the infrastructure needs to be reliable. When you talk about consumer products, people might accept small flaws here and there, but when you're talking about big buildings, especially when you're dealing with water, reliability is everything, right? If your valve does not close, or if something doesn't work at a critical juncture, or if a sensor did not report, or something went wrong, or the data is incorrect, the consequences of that are real. It can be a huge catastrophic event. So The stakes are high. We need to make sure the system that's being deployed is really, at a different level in terms of, testing it, making sure it works, it's certified. All of those things are critical. And another big lesson, Anshuman, is that platform really matters. When I was working at Cisco or even at Greenwave, you can see how powerful it is when you build systems that scale, integrate, and support multiple use cases in multiple different verticals. So we have to move ahead from thinking about building a device and talk about building a platform where the hardware, the software, the analytics, the billing, the operations, all of that is a solution that you're providing. You're not selling something at Home Depot, right? You are actually selling a platform which is going to provide an outcome. The end customer is not looking to buy a piece of hardware. He's looking to solve a problem, and he wants outcome as a service. He doesn't care about hardware as a service, software as a service. He wants to say, when something happens, is your system going to do what it's supposed to do and have that outcome where I don't have a loss, for example, right? So that's what they're looking for. They're buying that. So that's how we are trying to build Saya. I mean, it's not easy as a startup company, trying to be practical, reliable, data-driven, and focusing on measurable values. That's what we're trying to do.
Right, great, thanks. So let's educate some of the founders who are jumping into their entrepreneurial journey. What are the 3 mistakes you have seen founders make when they are building deep tech or infrastructure companies? Assessment of the future, ignoring adoption, long sales cycle, and how to mitigate those mistakes. So let's first identify 3-4 mistakes that a founder shouldn't be making if they are trying to build anything into the deep tech arena.
Yeah, from my experience, and other people might have different, take on this. But for me, the first mistake is trying to underestimate the complexity of what you're trying to solve, right? Deep tech and infrastructure companies, they're not like simple software companies. You're like, I'm going to build this piece of software and it's going to solve everything. It doesn't work like that. You have to make sure your system, your hardware is at a level it needs to be. Certifications are in place. You have to have SOPs for installation, SOPs for support and compliance. And then once the customer is up and running, we need to be able to support them too. So all of those things matter to the same degree of, you cannot say this matters more than that. It's all at the same level. And any of those things fail, your system is a failure, right? So you need to understand that you don't have one like wild card that's going to solve everything, right? It is real. The second problem, in my opinion, is don't build technology before fully understanding what the business problem is. Are you solving the full problem, or are you building something that you think is great, but it's not solving the right problems? The technology may be really impressive. Somebody might say, wow, this is great. But if it doesn't solve a painful economic problem, the customer is not going to move fast, because for him, he wants to spend something where the return on that investment is high. That's important.
Right.
Okay, so the third one, I think you said 3, right? Okay, so the third one is that a lot of times, and including myself, right, we think pilot means success.
Okay.
In infrastructure, people will test your solution all they want, right? But the real challenge is when they move from a pilot to a repeatable deployment, right? So to treat pilot as your QA team or your lab, because you don't have the budget to build a QA team to test everything, use the pilot as that. Don't don't think of that as a success. I see people, and including us, trying to raise money on pilots. Hey, that's not really a deployment. It's just a pilot. When they start, even if they paid you for the pilot, do you have repeatable deployments? So you need to have clear ROI, a clear buyer. You need to have a clear implementation process, because when you're doing a pilot, you don't have any of that. You just have a product, somebody tested it, but you haven't gone end to end to say, how I'm going to deploy it, how I'm going to support it, how I'm going to scale it. Does the business model work at scale? So those things are still incomplete. And, founders, including myself, we love technology, but we need to love the problem more than we love the technology itself. So that's my little
No,
take.
thank you for that answer. And I have seen your product. Uh, you are here in Los Angeles, Orange County, Southern California, and your product is getting manufactured in China. So, founder who is doing something in the deep tech infrastructure product development, how do you find all these vendors from where the raw material will come, finished goods, packaging, shipping? For a founder running on a shoestring budget, how do you go about it?
Well, so I had a little bit of an advantage working at Cisco and Greenway, where I actually stayed in China for a year and a half, and I did a lot of learning. I was actually managing a R&D team in China, and I was dealing with a lot of manufacturers. I was understanding, shop floor control, how Cisco routers are being manufactured versus Linksys, and I took a lot of notes, did a lot of learning, and I think some of that, it's about knowing, and it's also about having the right people, having the right relationships, and having the right people who are motivated. Companies are not run by great ideas or even by the founder himself. You need to have the right kind of people who can work independently and run their own silo like they're their own founder. I mean, and I've been lucky to have people like that in my team to design, build, and run all of these things in the background. I might be the face here, but there's a lot of stuff happening in the background that a lot of people don't see, and they should see. If I talk to an investor, I always want them to come and talk to all my team members and see what they are doing to really understand how all of these things work. It's every deployment, all of these things, how we plan our budgets in advance, these things are important because the customers do the same thing. Buildings move very slowly. Property, the decisions are made slowly. So we need to understand that cycle, what drives the market, how do you get in? Those things are, and sometimes you just have to be there long enough. You need to. So I remember in one of the events where Gaurav was talking about sales. I didn't even attend that event, but I just saw one clipping somebody posted where he said, water the farm, catch the fish, hunt the whale, right? So I took just that, as my defining strategy for my company, where we need to go and look at small projects that give us quick money and also sign quick SaaS contracts so that we build our SaaS revenue enough to sustain ourselves, and then find buildings that build portfolios of 1, 2, 3 buildings, and those are the catching the fish type of strategy. I made it up myself. I just looked at that phrase and I said, let me make something out of this.
That
Right.
framework, yeah.
Create a framework. So then build some of that. So now that builds a resilience for us to say, okay, we're getting X amount of dollars every month. We'll invest that in resources to catch the whale, which would be like the big high-rise buildings or big properties, and talk about commercial buildings, all of those things, because we know these buildings, the cost of acquisition is higher, the long-term value is great, right? But it takes a long time to deploy these solutions, so we need to make sure we are there, we can survive to be able to sustain that. But once we start building the funnel with more buildings like this, things will ease out, right? But creating the right kind of financial model. How do we make sure we are getting paid on time? Those things, all of those things are critical to be able to um, commit to something like this where the market, moves slow.
Yeah, yeah. So building infrastructure businesses requires a lot of patience. With young founders coming into the entrepreneurial area, how do they stay committed when the market takes years to catch up? Be it a single sale, the sale value could be long, but the sales cycle is also very, very long, right? So, what do they need to do? How do they cultivate the mindset of becoming a founder in today's AI world, where you see that in 6 months the valuation of a company is $1 billion, and here you are trying to build an infrastructure IoT AI product, which has a very big long-term value, and it may be a game changer in the infrastructure world that you are operating in. How to stay committed and focused and keep doing the great work? Is there any framework that you saw in your previous life or you implement in your current life?
I think you need to be very, very connected with your customers. You need to talk to your customers, understand their needs, and understand what are their core problems. In a building, the problem starts during construction, for example. That's what, course of construction is a big problem, right? So you have to make sure you can connect your product to cost savings, risk reduction, revenue, compliance, operational improvement, all of these things. So you need to be talking constantly to your customer, because the customer is not buying innovation, right? Technology is not enough. They are looking to buy outcomes. And you need to make sure your technology is actually supporting that result. And distribution, the other hard, you're talking about the truths for the founders. I mean, the big problem is the distribution of your solution is harder than making your product itself, right? You can build your product, but then what? How do you sell it? I remember, during the Cisco days, we were all the technology guys, right? So we would build all these things, and then when we go to all hands meetings, and the sales guys are walking and taking all the awards, and we would be like, what's going on here? Why nobody's talking about all the PhDs that built the product? Nobody cares, right?
Right.
But it's not that they don't care, but I think selling the product, making sure who buys it, is the most important thing for a business, because you can put like 5 IITs in a room and they can build something and get like a bunch of patents on it, but if it's not making money, it's just going to sit there, right? So we need to know who pays for it, who's going to buy it, who's going to support it. And I think 90% of most companies struggle there, I feel.
Right.
And then the
So,
rest.
Sanjay, you believe that the utilities are becoming an intelligent layer in the real estate scenario. Looking ahead 10 years, and 10 years is a long time, more so in today's world of AI. What will separate smart buildings from a truly intelligent buildings?
So the buildings that will win in the next 10 years are the ones that are measurable, responsive, and intelligent, right?
Okay.
The buildings that remain blind will become way more expensive to operate, harder to insure, and less competitive in the space. So the future of the real estate is not just a smart building, it's going to be intelligent infrastructure, and that's where the market is going. Right?
Great.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, put it more insight into it. In 10 years from now, the best buildings will not just tell you what happened, right? They will be able to predict what is likely going to happen based on all the analytics and all the information that's available. What recommendations, they will recommend what needs to be done. And some of the actions will be automated. A lot of stuff will be automated. You don't need to have a technician trying to figure out where the problem is and what to do and open, closets and figure out, all those things will be.
So do you think, I have a architect friend who is also part of TI, and his business practice is more into retrofitting a building for new code that is coming for earthquake and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
Do you think a future building which is getting built today will automatically say, okay, these are the new codes, they take a download of that and suggest outcome that, hey, these are the points that you need to take care because we are,
No, no,
do you think we are going that way?
You brought up a good point. Think about an earthquake scenario, right? Now, what a disaster it would be if you have electricity that's all over the place and water that's flowing everywhere. People would just die from electrocution, right? So if you have a system where you have like probably 10 seconds before the earthquake hits, you can get a sensor notification,
Right. Yeah.
and then what if you can then shut off the water, gas, electricity, all of those things systematically before something happens. Now you're reducing that one risk layer to save lives, right? So there's so many possibilities of infrastructure intelligence. That is a good example of infrastructure intelligence where you are triggering a set of actions to prevent catastrophic human loss, human life caused by an earthquake, right? And it's not even something falling on your head, it's just electrocution or just drowning or whatever it is, right? In a basement, if the water is flooded and you have nowhere to go, what are you going to do?
Right, right. Yeah, very interesting time, certainly. Okay, some hard truth. Give 3 or 4 brutal, honest advice or truth to a founder who is building a technology company. Because when a founder comes into the area of entrepreneurship and startups, they are bubbly, they are full of energy. They don't have the end-to-end uh, visibility that what they are getting into. For me, as I say, that just multiply all the timelines that you have by 2. So if you think that you will be able to raise funds in 6 months, make it 1 year. If you are going to hit a certain sales number in 3 months, make it 6 months. So what are those honest, brutal truth or advice that you would like to give a founder who is getting into building a deep tech technology company?
I think we touched on this a little bit before, but
Yeah.
three main points would be technology alone is not enough. Customers are not buying innovation, yeah? They're buying outcomes. That's the first one. The second truth is distribution is much harder than product. You need to find out that you build something great. You need to know how to sell it, who buys it, who installs it, who supports. All of that stuff is critical, right? And you need to do a lot of work interviewing people, trying to understand the market. And the third truth is resilience is much more. It matters a lot more than just the excitement, right? You might get something really quick and then it will fizzle out very fast if you're not resilient. There may be times where you're really excited you got a project, but the customer is moving slow, funding is very difficult, your hardware fails sometimes, halfway through the partner changes direction, and the market figures out that, hey, your system is not doing what they want to do. But with all of these challenges, as a founder, you have to keep going. And you have to keep learning, and you have to keep adjusting. Don't make mistakes. Mistakes are important for your growth, but don't make so big a mistake that you cannot get up, right? You need to make smaller mistakes, but make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. You learn from it.
Yeah. So Sanjay, you are part of incubation program at Evo Nexus in Irvine. Tell me how this program is helping you.
Well, it's interesting, Anshuman. I was part of this program a long time ago, right after COVID, or just during COVID. I interviewed, I think there were a few people there, Johar, and then Deepak Shah was there, and there were a few other people. And I got into the incubator, and then they shut it down in Irvine. So I didn't really spend much time, but I picked out a couple of advisors from the incubator, Howard and Johar, and then Marco. These are the three people I picked out. And I engaged with them myself. I reached out to them. I wanted to talk to them, learn. Because at that time, we had the technology, we had the certifications. I needed to figure out how to get this system at scale, how to how to go to market, what to do. We're all engineers. We need to figure out how to sell, right? So I'm trying to figure those things out, and I think there was a lot of information. You need to talk to people who have done this before and who have understanding in their field. Like Howard is really good with the finance side of things. Marco is really good with contracts and understanding, especially on the utility side. Jor has had major startup experience, understanding about finances, fundraising, all these things. So just be a sponge and absorb as much as you can. That's what I did in the early days. And then, I moved on. I was doing, I was part of LACY before that, the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. There was a lot of learning over there. We were part of LADWP, the Department of Water and Power, right? So there was a lot of learning and contract from there. But recently, just last year, Bob opened up the space here, and he called me and said, "Why don't you just sit here, just help out?" I said, "Look, I live in Irvine. I don't have to drive around. I'll come and sit here." And then one thing led to another. I'm here almost every day now, and it's been great. But I think just being here and talking to people and at the coffee counter, just discussing ideas, brainstorming, it changes the game, right? You learn a lot just from communicating with people.
No, and Evonexus and Bob are doing such a great favor to the city of Irvine and Orange County tech world by creating this and all the event calendar that they have, the AI Thursdays that they are doing and all. So much to learn. You never know who you will meet, and they could be a partner, funder, co-worker, or a hire. You never know. Or maybe even a customer.
Yeah, no, I've had all of the above. All of the above.
Okay, thank you so much, Sanjay, for your time today.
Yeah.
Truly appreciate you coming on this show, and there is a lot of learning that my audience will get after looking at this episode. So thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you, Anshuman. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so happy to be talking to you.
Yeah, take care, man.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.